We come from a culture that has a massive stigma around divorce. So people have this misconception that marriages in that culture work because they stay together. But how many of those women are happy?
Grownish, smartish, British.
We are British, apparently.
Bro, I told you, wait till the end of the season. You ain't got a choice, bro. You got no money to buy anyone decent. Not gonna cut it. Okay, this is what you do. Go unlisted for loan and get someone till the end of the season. That way you've got him as a backup, Tony when he comes back.
Might as well come and shop, mate.
Pay 100% of their wages.
Yeah.
They're not going to be great, but something for now. Damsgaard, he ain't good enough, by the way.
There we go. We might as well hold the line while they're
Julian Alvarez.
mocking the thing, really. Alright, you can go back now, it's fine. So that was a great intro to the podcast. You guys talking about football?
Gets like that.
So would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Yep. So my name's Grams.
Yep.
I do podcasts. I do content on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and I cover like relationship topics, and then we dive really deep into that and talk about like cultural stigmas and things like that can affect relationships, and we get into a little bit of like trauma and things like that. It's all kind of under the same umbrella, if you like. So yeah, that's what I do.
That's cool. So we actually got to know each other through TikTok. You saw my video and I actually saw your video, and it was very, very similar around culture stigma and, you know, families and their choices around when it comes to how they receive their children's partners or the potential partners. So you messaged me and you were like, yo, Instagram. And I'm just like, nah, that's cool. I'd love to wrap it with you. So
yeah, because do you know what it was? It's, you know, when you see stuff that resonates, like, why wouldn't you? Like, I'll be honest, like before that, I hadn't heard of you. Probably had never heard of me before.
I haven't, exactly. To be fair, yeah.
But like that video, and that's why TikTok in a way is great. You see it and you think, oh, I cover those topics. Or even if you don't, even if you're not a podcast person, but you see someone making content that relates to maybe something you've been through or your siblings or someone that you know, and you just kind of like, you just watch it and you think, wow, that's so interesting. And then obviously if you're a content creator, it's even better. So I reached out, I thought, yeah, let's do it.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate you reaching out, because like, who am I? But you're right. I think the important thing, like for me, I like to be as purposeful as possible. And I think when people start in my DMs or they write in the comments and they're like, this resonates so much. Like the latest one I did, so the first one that triggered everyone's attention was about my ex-husband.
That's the one I saw.
Oh my days.
I think that's the one I saw.
That was the one that you saw. We'll
good.
Go into that. But the one that's actually had like over 800,000 views in less time was the one about me talking about my husband, my current husband, and introducing him to my dad at my dad's grave. And that's resonated with so many people. And to me, I'm like, that means so much to me, that people feel vulnerable enough to reach out and go, yo, I'm going through the same thing. And to me, it lets me know that what I'm doing is purposeful and it still serves something. I'm not here to pod for the sake of talking crowd or just wasting time.
Yeah.
Like I want it to be useful to someone, even if it's me having a therapy session with you. Do you know what I mean?
But that's how it should be, man.
Yeah.
I think that like making content that is you. Hate it, love it, good, bad, doesn't matter. As long as it's you, there's always going to be someone that can like relate to it and watch it and stuff like that. And
I think it's also refreshing, because I think some people are just used to seeing, and it's no disrespect to the people who are doing other podcasts around certain topics, but like we want something that is beyond the surface. See what I did there? His podcast called Beyond the Surface.
It's a good name, bud. It's a good name. What's it about?
Go on. Plug your podcast. Oh, he has no mic, my bad. It's just basically talk about pretty much anything and everything. It's like a free fall conversation, but it's down to perspective. And, you know, everyone has their own idea of how they see things. And as Aladdin would always say, everything's very subjective. So it can go pretty much anywhere. And I think it's important to go beyond the surface, because we all live very real lives. And life is really life in a lot of the times. And we all act like we're okay because we're too busy busting jokes with each other because we're trying to stay distracted. So it's nice to just have a very raw conversation with someone and just not being afraid of being vulnerable. But TikTok's a very mean place, I'm not gonna lie.
Hey man, I put out a video yesterday or like just over a day ago, and it's just people grilling. The thing is like it's merited when you watch the video because you can understand where they're coming from, but it's a lot of like, oh, you should have done this, and I'm like, yeah, I know I should have done that because I know that now in hindsight. But
what was it? What was the clip about? If you don't mind me asking.
Basically the clip, a certain thing happened in my life that made me what I am today, what made me even do podcasts in the first place.
Yeah.
But obviously it's a 59-second video with not a lot of context, so it's like people kind of made up their mind.
Isn't that so interesting when they're like, for me, I had a whole discussion to why I got divorced, to where he's originally from. Was he a revert or born Muslim? And I'm just here watching the popcorn. I'm like, you guys are really deciding my life in and out. And I'm just like, do I reply? Some of them I replied and I killed them with kindness. I'm like, oh brother, you sound sad.
Yeah,
go hug your mum.
Yeah. Some I reply,
yeah,
but it depends. If it's just someone that's grilling me for the sake of it, I'm not going to really reply. But if it's someone that genuinely, like, because it was to do with my ex, there was a girl that commented that genuinely wanted to know, like, what happened to her after this. And then because I knew, I thought, nah, I got to tell her because that's a person that genuinely wants to know and is invested. So...
No, that's fair dues. But you're right. When in 60 seconds to a minute and 30, to try and get a full 360 explanation to cover all angles is impossible. So it's just like people will try and give you advice. They're like, watch the whole thing and you'll know.
At the end of the day, you got to play the game, right? Like,
yeah, I get sucked in sometimes though.
Yeah, but it's like TikTok is based on like watch time.
Yeah.
So like the longer someone watches a video, the algorithm understands that. And then only put similar videos for them because it assumes that if you're not skipping it, you like it. So like the reason I don't put out really long clips, one, because you want them to go to the full clip and get views on there. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
But two, the video can only really do well if they watch the majority of that video. So like making them a little bit too long, I don't know how long you can keep someone
the attention
on
span
a platform that is a swipe platform. It's
literally, and I feel you.
So yeah.
But I'm learning. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like an auntie when it comes to TikTok. I refused to be on it for a while, and it was like, Heba, you are missing out. TikTok. I'm like, because I had a like preconception of TikTok, which is like little excited kids just doing the maddest videos, and I'm just like, not for me. I'm not the generation. And then when I started seeing how it actually benefits when it comes to even sending out messages, whether it's positive messages or exposure to a podcast, and I'm like, yeah, I'm on.
I hated TikTok, by the way. So I was alluded to TikTok during lockdown.
Okay.
And I just had it for the sake of it. It was nowhere near how popular it is now. But I was on Instagram constantly and I was doing loads of Instagram lives and stuff, right? So then I put out this video about narcissism, okay? And I put it on Instagram and it did well. But the funny thing is, I edited it on TikTok to put the captions and then took it out of TikTok to put it on Instagram. I wanted it nowhere near TikTok. And one day it did well on Instagram and I thought to myself, do you know what? If a video does well on Instagram with how poor the algorithm is there at the moment, it has to do something on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I put it on TikTok. I had like 1,100 followers on TikTok and I don't think I had a single video over like 2,000 views.
Yeah.
Anyway, I put it up at like a random time of like 2:00 on a Wednesday.
Yep.
And I just left it. I didn't think about it, right? Came back to it. It was on like, I think after an hour, it was on like 3,500 views. So I was like, it's not a lot, but like, it's better than what I've been getting.
Yeah.
And then for like 38 hours, I was getting like 100 notifications every second.
Yeah.
I thought that is mad. And it did like, I think in a day it did 1 million. By like the third day, it was on 2.5 million.
That's incredible. And the thing is, when you haven't figured out the algorithm, you're like, I have no idea how this works, but I'm gonna run with it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna just freestyle and pray for the best. But it literally doesn't necessarily mean that the next one's gonna be great. But we're not here to talk about this. We're gonna move on. All right, so I start
sidetracked.
That's cool, man. So I start every episode with your favorite quote. Do you remember yours? Sorry, you're about to sip on.
Is that Mara?
No. Huh? I said I interrupted your flow.
Yeah. That's fine. My favorite quote.
Yes.
Oh, we spoke about this off camera. Be the change you wish to see in the world.
Okay, why is that your favorite quote?
So I read it in Gandhi's autobiography. So there was a phase in my life where I read a lot, like a lot, but not novels. I'd read like books on like psychology, or I'd read like autobiographies of famous people that I liked.
Nice.
So I think Malcolm X's one's probably still the best book I've ever read. And then I read through Gandhi's one, and that I saw that quote in there. And it resonated with me because it's like, everyone has like a perception of how they want to see the world. Everyone wants better, right? Especially nowadays.
Yeah.
With where it's going. And it's like, if you want to see that, you need to see that within yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? And I feel like only then do you genuinely want to see good happen, because if you believe in that, you should want it for yourself.
Yeah.
And generally we're quite selfish as humans, right?
And quite entitled.
Maybe that's a better word to use. So it's like, if you believe in that, do it for yourself.
Want it for yourself. Yeah.
And then do it for yourself. So it's like, when I saw that, and I kind of, because I overthink a lot, this is it's kind of served me well in the past with what I do as well. But obviously it has its burdens as well. And I'll look at something and then I'll just proper break it down and interpret it in all kinds of different ways. And then when I saw that, and I thought, you know what, that's stuck. And this was years ago. It's still stuck by me since then.
Sick.
So
no, I think overthinking is a great thing, because as much as it has its downfalls, you're allowing yourself to see the world in every single situation in so many different dimensions, rather than concluding that it must be this and it's just a very basic understanding. You're always like trying to dissect things, which can be exhausting.
Yeah.
But I think it allows for growth. Do you know what I mean? If you're constantly just 2D with everything, then you're forever just on the same pace. And I think it's good that you're allowing yourself to learn new things, no matter how exhausting it is.
Yeah.
In regards to being the change that you want to see, I think that also is very relative to relationships. I think a lot of people, I'll talk about this a bit, I don't know if it's going to come in which order, but I want to talk about it in relationships, because a lot of people are here that very entitled to what they want in a man or what they want in a woman, but they're not necessarily giving out the energy themselves, and they're not actually ready to be that person to receive and continue with that person. So like when we say, oh, we want this person who's like, I don't know, focused, educated, hardworking, traditional, but then you're out here doing the most. And it's just like, I heard you talk about it, I think, was it with Amir's podcast?
Amir, yeah.
And you spoke about women mainly. And I think for me as a woman, and I'm a different generation than youngsters, right? So maybe it's not relative to the younger audience, but for me, I always feel it's always the case with men, where I feel like men want a good girl, a very focused girl, very educated, very domesticated. But that girl and her expectation of a man isn't who you are, not you personally, but you're out here raving, smoking, probably shotting, or doing a little something with the boys that you shouldn't be doing, clubbing, body counts, but then you want that girl. And it's just like, but then you're not actually allowing yourself to be the energy that you deserve from that girl. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think through my experience of being on social media and just the people that I've spoken to, which is a lot of people, I think, and I'm not, of course this isn't everyone, but I think people's perception of what they want is a little skewed because it's driven by things like social media. So what I mean is, if you go to central London, for example, and you ask 100 women, or even men, but in my case, let's say women, what do you want? They're gonna all pretty much, they're all gonna say the same thing. Ambitious guy, maybe tall, you know, good looking, charismatic, you know, all of these things that women find attractive in a guy. But then a lot of the time you see the kind of guys they get with, and it doesn't really resonate with what they've told you they want. And that's because the perception, or what they've been kind of indoctrinated to believe is what you want, isn't what they want. Does that make sense?
It's like they're just repeating what they see without actually believing it. But I think to an extent they're lying to themselves. I don't think it's a case where I'm putting on a front to say, well, actually I want this guy, but actually deep down inside I don't. I just have to say this because it sounds right. So that part I challenge on, because I think some women and men, they think they know. Like, I've met guys through dating Muslim apps, and they're like, yeah, I'm ready to settle down, I'm ready for this and that and that. And then once you come correct, they're like, hold up, wait, I don't think I'm ready. And it's just because it's that perception, or that you've convinced yourself that you're ready, but then there's something there, lack of growth, lack of a journey that you need to still go through, to why you're not quite there yet, but you're right. Social media has ruined it for everyone. And I think I definitely want to talk about it. Just very quickly, I'll talk about my quote of the day, which is be there for others, but don't leave yourself behind. And I think I'm guilty of that at times. And I'm going to assume you're a bit like that. Cause I seem like
Are you an empath? Makes sense.
A bit dangerous because we give a lot. And I think for my natural nature is to always be there for everyone. Even if it is at my own expense. And the older I'm getting, I'm like, I need to reserve my energy. I tell myself this, but then I'm still willing to extend my hand to everyone. So it's just like trying to find a balance to really look after our mental well-being, our emotional well-being, because sometimes like if you continue to compromise on who you are, trying to like please other people and accommodate for other people, then you almost become useless as well, and you also owe yourself that respect.
Yeah, you kind of like lose that self-belief as well, like that self-love, because you're giving so much to other people that might not necessarily even appreciate it, and not everyone gives to receive, right? So you're feeling like, I'm giving all of this, what am I getting in return? And then it makes you doubt yourself of like, am I not good enough then? Is that why I'm not getting it?
I've been there.
And then that's when it lowers your self-esteem, lowers your confidence, and all of these things. And it's because there needs to be a balance. Like, there's nothing wrong with being an empath, but at the same time you need to understand that you come first. And when you put yourself first and you feel let down, that's your fault. You only have yourself to blame for that, because you've put yourself first from day one. But when you're putting other people first, right, and they're taking advantage of that, that's where things are different. That's when it's like, why have I done that? I should have thought about myself more.
But I think, so for me, I think mine comes from my mum. My mum's a very selfless woman, and at sometimes her own expense and her own detriment. And I think I always say, don't give to receive. But then there's like, as a human being, there's a small element of you that goes, do you know what? For everything that I'm given, I'd like to hope that will be reciprocated at some point. And then when it doesn't, I'm angry, or I'm not even, slightly frustrated, I guess, as I get older. But then I start to learn my own lane and going, do you know what, Hebs? Know your lane, keep it stepping. Don't give too much energy for that person. But then some people later on in life will go, do you know what? I appreciate the time you gave me that time. I didn't appreciate it then, but, you know, looking back, you're probably the only person that kept it real with me. But you can't wait on those moments. So sometimes you got to learn to just reserve your energy. So you and I connected on cultural stigmas. And you have a story. My
favourite topic.
Yeah.
Definitely my favourite topic.
Because we don't have a lot of time, because I want to talk about a lot of things with you. Can you briefly tell me about your story and to why sort of cultural stigma became like a big thing for you?
Okay, so this is I'm going to try shorten this.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I met someone when I was 19. And back then, I was like a bit full of myself. I was playing professional five-a-side football. I was 19. I was in good shape. I was a little bit cocky, arrogant. I'd do what does a 19-year-old guy that's full of himself do nowadays as it relates to women, right? And I wasn't
ego-led.
Yeah. So I wasn't the best. I did all of the kind of things that a lot of women, when they've been effed over by a guy, I did all of that. I did it. Like, I openly admit that publicly, like I did all of that. And what happened is I met someone and I tried obviously to do the same thing, but it just didn't work. It didn't work. And I was like, that's all right. That's what they all say. You'll get there in the end.
I'll break her eventually.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I was like, no, for months and months and months. And then I was like, there's a decision to make. Do I bail because I'm not getting what I initially wanted in the first place, or do I stay because, you know what, this person might be different? So anyways, I stayed for 6 years. And
so what was her background?
Pakistani.
Okay. And you are?
Albanian.
Okay.
So now when in that video that on TikTok that did really well, when I say I sacrificed so much, people think I'm victimizing myself.
Okay.
Right? And it's not that. They need to understand the context of, imagine a guy was doing all of that stuff and now he's stopped doing that for one person that doesn't want to engage in any of the stuff that you previously done. Yeah. And now that's the sacrifice. So when you stay celibate for 6 years for one person,
Yeah.
that's a sacrifice for a guy.
It is, but also that's God sent to you, boy.
That's definitely true as well.
Yeah.
So there's things like that, right?
Yeah.
And then basically we were just really young, like naive. You know, as long as you love each other, nothing else matters. Very untrue.
Oh my God. Yeah. I actually have a thing here that says love is overrated. Like that's a.
Yeah, we'll get into that
100%.
because I think people
They put a lot of weight on it.
yeah, we'll get into that definitely. But yeah, so as long as you love each other, it doesn't matter that you're Albanian and Pakistani, it's fine. Very complacent. Obviously, I'm the man, so when I say I got grilled in the comments, it's you're a man. You should have stepped up and married. You know, but I take full accountability. I do. You know, even though you could argue a perspective of why didn't she give you an ultimatum of, listen, I'm a woman of a certain background, of a certain culture, I can't be doing this for years on years on end. That never took place. But I never say that. I never say she's to blame. I should have been the man and stood up, like stepped forward and said, etc. Right? So I didn't do that. And
but I guess ultimately, sorry to interject, but ultimately, if you guys were both trying to do things the halal way for so long or whatever, however you dealt with it, surely it's for a long-term goal, because no man that young with this much excitement happening in his life will put everything aside if you weren't looking to take it seriously. Yeah. So I think that's kind of unsaid anyway. You don't need to have to say it clear enough.
Yeah, I agree.
People will have something to say. So she, after 6 years.
Yeah. So then what basically happened, we were still together, and she, her dad took her abroad on holiday for her birthday. And she goes, first they went to Dubai, everything was cool, like birthday presents, whatever. Stepped foot in Pakistan, and she goes, the day I stepped foot was the day that my wedding was ready. My clothes were ready, the people were ready, etc., everything, right? And at this point, we're still hiding everything. So she's saying to me, listen, like when I get there, I'll email you because people think it's for work. Like I don't want anyone looking over and seeing loads of like
certified,
ops back home that will just snitch.
It's real. It's very real. Trust me.
So week went past, didn't hear anything. 2 weeks went past, didn't hear everything. 3 weeks went past, I was like, something's happened. I just don't know what it is. Right? So now a month has gone past, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And then she messaged my sister-in-law. So no one really knew, but like a couple people from my side, like a few of my cousins and my sister-in-law. And at the time, my sister-in-law was living with me, I guess with us. And she came to my room and goes, oh, Grams, have you heard from so-and-so? And I said, nah. Like, why? And she just messaged me. And in my head, I'm thinking, how has she messaged you and not me? And I was like, what's wrong? And she goes, I'd rather show you than tell you. Right? So I was like, I don't know what that means. So she gives me the phone, and it's just a long essay of, I don't know how to tell you this. Like, I'm stuck. Like, my family's, like, all my cousins are pressuring me. I've come here and my wedding's ready. Like, this has to happen. I've said no, and my passport's been taken off me, and I can't come back to England unless I do this. At the nikah, she goes, I was crying. And the imam's just doing it.
Like, the cultural thing is mad.
Like she goes,
Islamically, that's all red flags galore.
100%. And then she goes, like at night, I'd sleep on the couch with my clothes on because I don't want him to see me without clothes on.
So she got married to him.
Yeah. And then what basically happened is after, I would say, a couple months, she came back. She came back to England, and as he was coming to visit and stuff like that, she'd go to her cousins up north.
Swerving.
She'd stay completely as far away from him as possible, because in her head, she thought, if I can get back to England, I have more leeway.
She's safer there.
I have people that I can turn to, etc. Where do I go? Who do I go to in Pakistan, right? This is in 2015, so you didn't have the law of a British citizen getting taken away and the government will go get her and prosecute. Like that didn't exist
your own,
then,
basically.
Right?
Yeah.
So after I think 2 years, he divorced her, right? And then during that 2 years was like the darkest moments of my life, because when that's happening, I'm thinking the worst things. Like I'm thinking she's back home, she's back there with him. Like even though she doesn't want to be there, that doesn't matter what's happening, what they doing, what is he doing to her, blah blah blah. And then you're trying to think, I've literally given my whole life to be with someone, and they can just get taken off you. Guess what? You're not going to do anything about it, because guess what? You're not going to call her dad and mouth off because doesn't know you exist, and all of these things. And every day was just worse and worse and worse as the time went by.
Can I ask a few questions? Do you think her family had an inkling something was happening? Because usually, from what I've seen historically, when a girl gets married off like that, it's because the dad either has someone that is close to him that he wants to give a green card to, and they're completely warped in the head, unacceptable regardless, or they have an inkling that she's dating someone and they need to nip it in the bud real quick, and as a result of freaking out, they just got marry her off and just corner her back home, and it's by force. Do you feel like there was some sort of insight? According
to her, no.
So does she have any other female siblings?
A younger sister, but she was super young back then.
So there's no sort of like heads up and nothing.
According to her, no. Now I don't know, but according to her, she said it just wasn't possible. So I think, just to add a little bit more context, she'd seen the guy before. So this is why it was so weird, because she goes, my parents have been family friends with them for so many years.
They've been plotting.
And like she said, like, I went to Pakistan and saw him. I was like, where have I seen this guy before? And then when she thought back, she was like, they've come over to have dinner before. And obviously she had no idea. Like, she's just thinking, it's mum and dad's friends, family, whatever, etc. They were very wealthy. So her dad assumed, why wouldn't my daughter go for it? Wealthy family, why wouldn't she? Little did he know, she had a guy that she loved, etc. So
I think the difficulty with a lot of ethnic minority parents who've come here first generation is they don't realize that you've brought your children and raised them into a world that's Western, with so much more exposure. In a negative but in a very positive way. So we're learning a lot more about our culture, our faith for ourselves. We're not inheriting things. We're able to question things. We're able to like build our own character, rather than what they thought. Probably even my parents, in certain things, they thought I'd automatically believe what they believed, or I'd want what they want. And it's like, so to them, it's a no-brainer. And I'm not trying to justify, but I'm trying to understand. Do you know what I mean when I say that? So when she divorced, did she try and get back with you? I'm very direct. I have to ask these, because when I watched it, I'm like, I don't know the answer.
Listen, I have no issue with speaking about all of it, obviously protecting her privacy and stuff. Of course. But it's just a case of, there's so much to unpack, and I'm trying to squeeze it in, but give you like something. But what it was is, for 2 years, I had no understanding of the why. And this is why people struggle. They don't have their why.
100%.
Okay.
They don't get the closure that they want.
Some people call it closure. I don't think you can get closure from the person, especially in my circumstance, because it's a mitigating circumstance that she has no control over. What can she give me to make me feel better? But it's a case of, you don't have the reason. So I would say, like, after about 2 years, you get it within you, like something, I don't know if it's God or something just in you that tells you, listen, like, yes, you love this person. Yes, you spent a lot of time with this person and sacrificed a lot to be with this person, just like she did. But you've got what you're supposed to get out of this, and you can't have her.
Every life lesson is a blessing. Like,
right.
Honestly.
So then people always ask me, okay, so, but what do you think you got from that? And what I think, this is just what I feel like I have in me, that I don't know if it's from God or whatever, but I'm going to put someone in your life that's going to change you. It's going to teach you how to love, how to respect, right? But you're not going to have her. My job is to do this for you. So I'm going to change your life, right? But I'm still not going to let you have the thing that changed your life, because someone else is supposed to have that. But you're going to get this out of it.
But then he's also going to change your life again by removing her, and how you're going to react to that. Like, I think every single situation you get put into, like, definitely 100%, had you continued with your 19-year-old typical way, you would have been one of those guys.
I think I'd have a couple of kids, man.
There we go.
This is just me being real. Like, I do think it was kind of heading that direction.
It's a humbling moment.
That's what I'm saying. So I just feel like it's a case of, you've done, this is what I'm giving you. But at the same time, although I'm giving you something positive that you might not see now, but you're going to see later, which I see now, you still effed up back in the day. So you still have to feel some pain for that.
100%.
So it's like my karma of all the people that I did wrong came back 10 times harder at the worst time of my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's in a way, it's like, people might say, how can a God do that? But like, when I look at it now, I'm like, that is a lesson
100%.
that's going to be such a positive thing for you later on that you might not see now. Now it feels like torture. Later on, you're going to be like, wow, what a blessing. Like,
100%.
I'll feel that again. Just to learn what I've learned.
Yeah.
And it's like, what, 6-7 years later, I'd never go back to the way I was.
There we go. And I think a lot of people can't see that light. When they go through hardship, they're just like, no, why is it happening to me? A lot of the whys, and I don't understand. And then it's like, if you allow yourself to just go through that journey, eventually you'll appreciate it. Like when people are stuck in like relationships and they can't leave and they feel trapped, and it's just like when they finally leave and they go, oh my God, I feel alone. I feel this, like, you know, I've been with this person for this long.
Yeah.
And it's like, but actually, eventually, time isn't a healer, but time allows you to just continue and evolve and grow, reflect, whatever it is you make out of it.
Yeah. Time is only a healer if you put yourself in a position where you want to heal, because time doesn't wait for anyone.
No.
Yeah, it's not a physical person.
No.
It's not sympathetic. It doesn't care about your feelings.
Yeah, it's keeping.
It will let you cry every day. It doesn't care. It will keep going. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? But you got to do the work in between. Then over time, when you're doing the work, that's when then you get to that stage where you don't fully heal, but those things no longer become a burden.
Yeah. It becomes smaller.
To answer your question, yes, she was still trying to contact me. And I felt like I owe it to her, because I've gone through my 2-year journey. I've got my clarity, my purpose, the why, but she doesn't know where my head's at.
Of course. Yeah.
So I had to tell her my perspective of and what I've got out of this whole situation. And I said, as someone that I loved and cared for dearly and etc., I have to give her that respect to meet up with her and tell her, look, this is where I'm at. So I did that. Obviously she didn't like it. Of course. We left it at that, and then for a long time she was emailing me constantly, and I blocked the email. And for those people that don't know, when you block an email, it goes to your junk mail. So you still see it when you're getting passwords and things like that. You still see it. So someone might look at this and be like, Grams, that's heartless. And I'm saying to people, I'm doing her a favor, because if I reply, it gives them hope. And I don't want to give hope to someone that I've already said, listen, I believe this came from God.
But yeah, and not just that, it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years of your growth. It's been 2 years where you're not going to be waiting on someone, because those 2 years weren't known to you. You weren't knowing that you're going to wait 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, or never. Do you know what I mean? So the right thing a normal person would have to do in these circumstances is go through the heartache, start building your life again, and just moving on. Because if this person is in this situation indefinitely, then what you've done is very human. But then also what you're trying to do is also trying to protect her energy and your energy.
Yeah, I can't open those wounds.
Because you spend a lot of time trying to deal with it. And that's understandable. Yeah, of course it can come across as quite heartless, but there's only so much explaining you can do.
Yeah.
And there's only so much, trying to make someone understand something, and with time they'll understand it.
Yeah.
And I think that's fairly okay.
Yeah.
Has that put you off mixing with different cultures?
No. No, and we can get into that. But the last thing I'll say on that is that kind of leads to why I make content today, because it was at a time where the stigma of men not being able to open up, and it shows that you're weak, and I had no one to talk to, and I genuinely didn't. And a lot of the time people don't necessarily come for advice because they think that, oh, you're going to tell me something that's going to change my life. Some people just want to vent to you. They don't have anyone else there. And I didn't have that, and every night was a battle. Like, I could go into detail of how much of a battle that was, but the point is that today, why not use what I went through as a way to make content, and people can watch it and say, do you know what, I can relate to that,
and I don't feel alone.
I can message this person, like, till this day, like, that people message me on a day-to-day basis, and it's just like, they have someone there. I might not be able to help you, I might say something that you don't agree with, but you have someone there to speak to, because I knew how it felt when I didn't.
It's first-hand experience.
Right. So then I was like, do you know what? Let me try and do something.
No, we're
with
very
this.
similar. We're very, very similar. And I appreciate that about you. That's cool, man. So my background, okay, quick question. Culturally, growing up, were you expected to sort of marry within your culture?
Yeah. So my parents, especially my dad it's the difference between like being patriotic and being a nationalist.
I was going to say, was he very patriotic?
He's very nationalist.
No way.
Yeah, so it's like...
redneck vibes.
Albanian all the way. I think even one day he said, as long as she's Christian, even if she's Christian, I don't care as long as she's Albanian.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Okay.
Yeah.
You know the levels.
Right. But it's very that direction. But I'm not for that because I like to... I'm not the most Islamic person in the world, but there's so many things in our religion that I really, really like. And I think it is better for the world, in my opinion, especially with how the world is and especially this country of multiculturalism and stuff like that. But for me, it's like I'm all for being
with the Muslim person,
with different cultures, because I think when you have Islam, you don't need nothing else.
I agree.
So as long as they're Muslim and they're practicing, then you have, for me, absolutely nothing else that you need to consider, in my opinion.
When did that change?
It's all encompassing.
When did you start thinking, all right, cool? Because like culturally, firstly, I feel like culture and faith is a very blurred line between it, especially with our older generation. They do a lot of things that they deem as part of faith, but actually that's culture, nothing to do with faith, contradicting faith actually at times. When did you start thinking, actually, do you know what? This is culture, this is faith. I'd rather stick down to this lane.
When I read about my religion. So, there's I obviously everyone's born Muslim, right? But I wasn't born into a Muslim family per se in the sense of practicing. My granddad was a practicing Muslim, and that's why like I was very close to him, and when he died that had like severe kind of consequences to like how I am now, just because it was I would say, like, I have a father, of course, but that was how can I say this without it coming out wrong? It's like he was also a father figure. That's
fine. Yeah,
right?
He impacted you massively.
Taught me the religion a lot and stuff like that. And I was under the notion that I just want to get with who I want to get with, even if they're atheists. I didn't care. This is kind of like how I thought at one point. And then as I started reading about the religion and stuff like that, I quickly kind of came to the realization that I need to marry a God-fearing person, because a God-fearing person, when they have someone that's above them, that they're gonna be held accountable to their actions, to that thing,
and
or whatever.
And conscious of it,
right?
Yeah.
They're gonna think twice about the way they speak to you, the respect, the love, stepping out, anything that is against the marriage or whatever else. They're gonna think, do you know what, I can't do that because my religion doesn't allow it. God is gonna question me,
and that's your purpose.
Exactly. So
I agree. Like with my current husband, like firstly, the very interesting thing about culture is that if I wanted to marry an Egyptian person or a Sudanese person, which is my background, my parents probably wouldn't have blinked twice about whether they're practicing, whether they drink, don't drink, whether they step out, whether they're aggressive. They're just like, oh, which family? What's his career? Is he successful? Not in a shallow way, but it's something, I guess so, something about like classism or just that patriotic side of them, to be very proud that he's Egyptian or very proud that he's Sudanese. So when I got married to my first husband, he had to jump through hoops to prove that he's a good enough human being, good enough Muslim. Suddenly he was asked to quote like ayat from the Quran. I'm just like, my sister's married to an Egyptian, never asked to go prayers, never asked to like, but then it's just like, are you good enough? But then it's just like, hold the same energy for everyone else. But then subhanAllah, when my dad before he passed away, he said to me, but I want you to find someone who's God-fearing. And even when I had my child, I only prayed for God-fearing and good health. I didn't care how he looked like. I didn't care that he had, everyone's like, oh my God, your children are going to be buffed. I don't care, because it looks mean nothing to you when that person's character or their foundations are absolutely warped. So for me, that's all I prayed for. And my dad said to me, all I want is someone who's God-fearing, who's truly God-fearing, to look after you, because then I know you're going to be okay. Yeah. And that's truly what I got. Alhamdulillah, like now I've been married for a minute, and this person, culture aside, he loves his culture. He's from Sierra Leone, born Muslim, but he's had to reteach himself faith on another level because he's inherited faith in the way that his parents taught him, which doesn't align to everything that he believes in as a Muslim. And I know every decision he makes, God first.
Yeah.
And therefore he'll always be aligned to how he should treat his wife, to how he should look after his kids, his parents, his livelihood.
Yeah, because his moral compass comes from his religion.
Literally the religion.
So that's what I'm saying. That's my point. So there's so many cultural practices that not only are against Islam, but aren't even morally correct. So it's like, that's why I dismiss it. And I get criticized for it by Albanians because what kind of Albanian are you? And I'm like, my friend, don't even go there. Like, my religion doesn't need you. My religion doesn't need my flag, my country doesn't need anything. It's all encompassing. So I don't care what you think because I'm not patriotic.
I mean, I think you're proud that you're Albanian.
Course.
Like, I'm proud to be where I'm from, but then
I'm Muslim first.
That's it.
I'm Muslim first.
That's it. And I think it's finding that balance. And I think there's nothing wrong with being proud of where you're from. I think it's just trying to be able to like distinguish what you're doing and where your moral compass lays.
I think just to touch up on with your husband, etc.
Yeah.
There's a key thing which relates to what we're talking about, which definitely I think has to be spoken about. The fact that he's black makes life 100 times worse. and racism is taught. My parents that come to England in the early 90s, they probably never even seen a black person. In Albania, you have them now. In Kosovo, you have them. They work there and stuff. Great. Prior to that, you've probably never even seen one. No. But yet you've created a narrative of them, or you've created a perception of them before you've even met or seen them or spoke to them. As soon as you've stepped foot in the country and you ask any parent from these kind of ethnic minorities, the first race that they don't want their son or daughter to get with is the black race. And you ask why, and they can never give you a decent justification, if a decent justification even exists, right? And it's like, I've seen situations where, like we spoke to you off camera, there's black Algerians, right? You have black Arabs, right? Or darker skinned Arabs.
Of course.
They don't want... So yes, okay, I want someone to get from
colorism's a thing,
right? They're from the same country as me. They have the same culture as me. They have the same religion as me. But now the skin tone's a problem.
Classism, colorism is a very, very big thing.
Right. So you can take it a step further and say it's actually not just culture and country. It's you just don't like their skin color.
Yeah.
So that's like where it really gets messy.
Yeah. But it's true. I think what I found very interesting, especially in the South Asian community, in TikTok only, I got South Asian friends, everyone's calm, but the realities are there's a lot of inherited, even to the next generation, of hate towards different races. And it's just such a shame because I have two videos, right? I have a video of me talking about my husband being black and then my ex-husband, and how, of course, he's your ex, he's black, then like just going in about the Caribbean culture, going in and making own assumptions and well, your parents were right. No, my parents were ignorant. And their reasons to why I couldn't marry him initially before even meeting him or knowing anything about him has no connection to why it failed. That's one thing. Then it's like, you should have married and stayed and honoured your culture and your marriage would have lasted. No, there's a lot of people within my culture who are still in unhappy marriages, and the divorce rate is still very high because just because you're from the same culture doesn't mean your relationship's going to work, because the respect doesn't come with culture. Loyalty doesn't come with culture. Just a basic understanding of marriage and the values of marriage.
What the issue is because we come from a culture that has a massive stigma around divorce. So people have this misconception that marriages in that culture work because they stay together. But how many of those women are happy? There's a difference between they're together, and there's a difference between would she bail if she had the opportunity. And this is where people, for me, they can't have that discussion because I don't want to sound bad, but you don't have the intelligence.
No, they don't.
Or the common sense.
Honestly.
Like, to have this discussion, it's like, how many, okay, I'm not going to say this a generalization, right? We're just going to speak generally. If you go to a village in Afghanistan, okay, who are very into like in family marriages and stuff like that, right? If you go to a country like Afghanistan and go to a village in Afghanistan, right? If that woman if I went up to that woman who's married to maybe her cousin or her uncle or whatever the case, maybe cousin, right?
I don't know nothing about that culture, so I can't even comment.
I've got a lot of friends from there. I've done a lot of research on it, right? And you show a British passport and you say, darling, this is for you, okay? You can travel all around the world with this. You can work, you can have your own money, you can have your own career. Guess what? You can even go to school, which in Afghanistan you can't do,
right now. Yeah,
right?
Literally.
You can increase your average literacy rate because in Afghanistan it's 30% for women, which is only reading and writing in their own language. Not like us where we could have studied French and German at A-level and got an A, and then we can speak 3 languages. Their literacy rate is 30%. So I'm going to give you a passport. Take this and you can go all around the world, right? How many of them are going to be like, do you know what? I'm happy in my village in Afghanistan with my husband and my 5 children, where the likelihood that he beats me on a day-to-day basis is quite high. Again, not generalizing, it happens. What else? I have no career.
But you know what? I'll challenge you a little bit there.
Yep, go ahead.
Because I think people who are in a village and they are not exposed for the rest of the world, the rest of the world, are sometimes very comfortable in their element because it's normalized in every single element.
That's fine. People are happy with familiarity. There's people in domestic violence relationships that stay in them due to familiarity. So familiarity doesn't necessarily mean it's positive. It means I have no other option.
That's it.
But when you give people options, that's when then you start picking out their brain and you start looking at it. But not to digress, the point is that there's a difference between they stay together for 30 years. But how could a woman who wants to leave, so let's not generalize like I did. Let's look at the woman that wants to leave her husband in that village. How can she? She's going to be shamed.
Of course.
No one's going to want her.
No.
Because apparently marrying a divorced woman is the most absolutely awful thing ever. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did it. But hey, remember, religion gets left out the door when it comes to culture. No one's going to want her. People are going to talk.
She's a rubbish mom for leaving.
Breaking
They're
going to talk nonsense about her family. She lives in a village, never seen anything outside that village, has nowhere to go. What's she going to do? So guess what? This is why I will always respect these women. Right, even though they don't leave, I still respect them. Why? Because you're sacrificing that one life that you have for the sake of your children. Because ultimately that's what they do it for, not just the perception. It's those children.
That is a last straw. Whenever they're ready to, they're like, about the kids. The kids.
Even though that I could argue
it's very detriment. I left for the sake of my child. That's the whole conversation.
And even with that, it's like, okay, cool, but if we were educated enough, we'd understand that staying in a toxic marriage is worse for children other than co-parenting.
Absolutely. I actually looked into that before making the decision to leave my ex-husband.
But we don't know that as a culture because we don't believe in depression. We don't believe in trauma. We don't believe in childhood trauma, generational trauma, PTSD, none of this.
Honestly, even when I came to leave my relationship and I explained everything and why it happened, there was still, but you got kids being said to me. Other women have gone through it. So there was a lot of people still whispering in my ear to stay in this unhappy relationship and to deal with it because everyone else had to. And I'm just like, what am I teaching my child? What foundations am I laying to my child? What kind of standards am I teaching about what is healthy love if I continue to stay in this situation? But just wanted to quickly go back to my point of TikTok and racism and the whole like, you're meant to be Muslim and understanding our teaching is to show there's no classism, there's no colorism, there's no barriers. If you are Muslim, you can be any single color, any single height, body weight, whatever, you are we are level for that reason. So you have people cussing the fact that my ex-husband was Caribbean. But then in my next post, when a Ghanaian guest, who's a revert, spoke about how he was made to stand in the back of the masjid because he was black. No, we're not racist. We should be open. We're accepting of all these brothers. But the same people, exactly the same people, in my comments saying, well, obviously because he's black, the marriage didn't last. But then now you're shouting and and screaming that actually our community is so welcoming to different races. And I'm just like,
it's because culture enters the masjid.
This doesn't make sense.
That's why culture enters the masjid. I had this very quickly. I had this argument in my village back home. And I don't want to make it a religious thing, but there's a hadith that says that the people that pray at the front, they get the more rewards. And there's like a metaphor that talks about you'll be fighting each other if you knew how important it was to stand there.
front,
Not literally fight to get there, but in terms of the significance.
Only you knew how important, yeah.
So I went to the mosque, Friday prayer. I was early and I sat at the front, and everyone's telling me, come back. And I was like, why? And the old people stand there. I was like, so? They knew I was from England, by the way.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a respect thing. I go, that's nothing to do with my religion, my friend.
It.
I'm standing there. There's nothing you're going to do about it. Until my granddad was like, listen, like, just do this one for me. You're right. Guess what? The Imam stood there, by the way, never said anything because he knew I was right. But then he has that pressure of how are they going to look at me? So my granddad said, step back. I stood back and whatever. But this is what I'm saying. It's because culture enters the masjid. That's the problem. Because they're talking about you're supposed to let them at the front out of respect. That comes from that's a cultural doctrine. That's what I'm saying. So it's like
more times the uncles or the aunties want to sit on a chair and, you know, have your own space on the side. But yeah, it's every single mosque, similar to every single church or every single wherever you go, place of worship. Different parts of the world, different parts of even the ends, like even in South London is different than North London, than West London. Don't comment on West London. West London's nice. There's he's cussing West London all day today. There's different etiquettes, there's different cultural boundaries. Like if you go to a heavily Asian mosque, it's a different energy. If you go to a heavily multicultural one, like in the heart of London, it's a whole different energy. And it's interesting because we're all here for the same purpose. Yet we feel different in different places we enter.
Just to touch up on your TikTok thing, right? The reason that happens is because we come from a judgmental culture. 100%. We come from a shaming culture. We come from bring people down, don't uplift them.
100%.
Yeah, and I'm not, look, there's good and bad in everyone. I'm not saying there's English people are all fantastic and but there's definitely a difference when it comes to that. And I've had a lot of different kind of friends from different kind of countries, and I just don't see that same thing in a lot of them. They don't have that where it's like batter you down to the floor with every inch of me, even anonymously on a platform. Don't care about your mental health or how it's going to make you feel. There's definitely an element of
inherited cultural.
Of this kind of make you feel like crap, basically.
But do you not feel like those same people who are writing and doing the most are probably really unhappy themselves?
Yeah, of course they are.
It's just like you're doing everything. Like, or sometimes I feel like, do you know what I feel like saying to them? But I know I'm going to get loads of backlash. I'm like, go check up on your sister. Go check up on your family members. Like, do you know when they say, like, literally, I don't know how many people have said it on my podcast, whenever you point the finger at someone, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. So when you're too fast to speak, and it's the people who speak too soon and go, I would never, more times it will happen to you.
Yeah, you can't have that conversation with them. Like, I mean, you're talking about the kind of people, not all of them, but you're talking about the kind of people that
IQ levels.
We'll catcall women on the street, but then we'll kill someone when it's done to their sister.
Yeah.
And it's like, how did you work that out? Because she has a brother as well. And the thing is don't even add value to her because she has a brother. Add value to her because she's a woman. You shouldn't do it. Yeah. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Don't attack. Yeah, but that's someone's daughter. It's like, no, that's someone. You don't have to attach. Like, don't add importance to her by saying.
But some people need to hear things in perspective. Unfortunately, you have to go, well, that's someone's daughter, that's someone's mother, and it's like, yeah, my bad.
Yeah, they don't care about that.
But some people don't. They actually don't, and they're very contradicting in what they're saying.
It's a walking contradiction. That's why I can never like I've got a sister. Yeah, she's older than me. Like I'll think about that when I'm a certain way. Because it's like I would never want that for her. Yeah, I would never want that for her. So why would I want to make potentially someone else who's a sibling of hers or her father feel like that when it's going to make me feel like that if it was done to me? And that's what I think. Again, they don't have the intelligence. They're too ignorant to even have that conversation.
I noticed. Choose a battle here, especially on TikTok. Choose your battles.
I challenge like 95% of the people, girl, guy, whatever you are, to sit in front of me on a podcast. Let's film it and justify your points. I won't attack you for swearing at me. I won't do none of that. I want you to rationally justify your points and let's have a healthy debate and tell me why I'm wrong. Never happen.
Exactly. No, it won't happen. Do you know what I found really funny the other day? I started seeing comments when I sat with a guy going, oh my gosh, they're by themselves.
Yeah, I had that
they shouldn't be having a conversation. And I'm like, sorry, do you think we're in an empty room? Firstly, let's just say Like in my case, I'm not in an empty room. There's other people in the room, right? But then it's just like, brother, you're missing the point. And then someone comes in. You know, I just love people just fighting my battles because they're just like, well, actually, if you listen to the purpose of a conversation, it holds more substance than the fact that they're alone in a room.
This one really annoys me.
They're like,
the same thing.
Shouldn't they be married? Are they married? And it's just like, but brother, you're dating most likely. And I'm not trying to like point fingers and trying to say that this is a matter of fact, but a lot of people who make noise are doing the most also, even if it's undercover and unknown.
People sin on benefit.
Oh, wait, explain that.
So, now I'm not saying just because you sin here, you should sin there. That's not what I'm saying. But for instance, someone will turn around, and I understand different sins at different levels. I get all of that, but just the principle of you're talking about me being in a room with a woman talking about things that are against my religion, by the way, and I'm trying to promote my religion essentially. But you've just come from a girl's house.
That's it.
But I get it, because the McDonald's burger benefits your taste buds, but seeing me in the room with a woman, that's wrong.
But what are we doing in a room? What are we talking about? What our purpose? It's just,
people sit on benefit. Look,
that's actually hilarious.
Like, you'll see it, man. Like, and I've seen it, and that's why I talk about it. It's like, I did a podcast. I was sitting with two girls, one hijabi girl, one wasn't. They were both Muslim. And I was talking about one of the most essential things when it comes to culture. And I gave the example of the 18-year-old girl who's never been with a man, who wears a headscarf and wants to bring home a black revert. Yeah. Why is that wrong? The first person to call for prayer was black. Why is that wrong? Etc. Islam doesn't promote this, like, etc. And then you see comments of like,
Astaghfirullah,
why is he in a room with two girls? And I'm like, oh, kill me now.
It's just like,
kill me now.
But it's fine. You just got to, like, you're true. You got to choose your battles and keep it stepping. But sometimes I just leave it to them. Before, I used to be like, oh my gosh, I need to justify myself. And I thought, nah, auntie in the corner is already written. Uncle's already stepped in and said, actually, blah, blah, blah.
You get past it. It used to affect me.
It doesn't faze you once.
Nah.
Has any the one that fazed me the most, which I think really upset me, because I just thought, why go there? Someone went, your dad must have killed himself because of what you've done. And I'm just like, do you know what? Luckily, I'm not that weak. Because if I was, and there are a lot of people who are, mental health compromised, that would have triggered them differently.
They don't care. I'm telling you, we come from a judgmental culture.
They
and
need hugs, these guys.
I would bet my bottom dollar.
Yeah.
I'll put my
Bottom
mortgage.
dollar.
I'll bet my mortgage on it.
Yeah. Astaghfirullah, you have a mortgage.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Oh, interest.
I'm just helping you out for the next TikToker.
Oh no, interest. Anyways, I bet my bottom dollar. Oh no, gambling's haram as well. How am I going to get out of this? Anyways, if you find out where they're from, I can guarantee you anything that they're from the exact kind of culture that I'm speaking about. I can guarantee you, if that person's name is Stacey from Essex, I'll give my house away today. Yeah, that's how unlikely it is.
That's charity,
we just
right
come
there.
from well.
See that?
Oh, thank God.
Redeemed yourself.
I redeemed myself. I'm telling you, that person is from our culture.
Yeah.
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of culture you come from. It's just judgmental. It's never supportive. It's break you down.
But what I find so mind-blowing is like, what you're doing, going out your way. Some guy said to me, oh my God, they're free mixing. I said, why are you free mixing in my comments? Leave. Like, why are you here? Like, you're talking to a woman. How dare you? So I'm just like, at this point, I might as well take the piss out of you.
I'm telling you,
I don't know
invite
what to
them on
do.
your podcast.
Nah, I'm all right.
And tell them, invite, like, we'll do me, you. We'll get like 6 of them over there. Squeeze them in. 2 there, 4 over there, and say, right, that thing you said, justify it.
No, but like
they will
that's
never
the
be
truth.
able to. It's wake up in the morning and judge this person and hate just because I want them to feel bad.
It's because they're unhappy about their own.
Yeah. Happy people doing well in life don't go on TikTok and write those things.
No, they don't. They're the ones that try and celebrate you a little bit at least. Do you feel like women have it worse than men when it comes to these social media stuff? Like, obviously, I'm a Muslim podcaster. You're a Muslim podcaster. But you can, like, for example, when you've spoken to Waleed or Amir on your podcast or their podcast, and you spoke about relationships, right? You spoke about dating, you spoke about relationships, you spoke about all these different things, even like having sex, for example. Do you get backlash for that? As a woman, I remember I spoke about sex, marital sex, like how parents don't teach us about certain things, and then you're expected to jump into a marriage and then now understand how sex is. Like, why are we not having this conversation? Astaghfirullah, why are these women talking about sex?
I'm going to give you one word.
Go on.
Misogyny.
Yeah.
That's it.
But why is it men don't? Do you not have a brother going, brother, you shouldn't be talking about this or promoting it?
Not really. Like not to that degree that you would.
We get
like
slated.
If you had 100 comments, probably 75% of them will be slaying you.
100%.
Whereas with me, 75% of them will be about what I'm saying. It's because of misogyny. There's no other reason. Give me another reason it could be. I'm all ears, by the way.
No, there is no
I'm not going to argue with anyone. I'm all ears. Like, give me another reason as to why you get castigated for that and I don't. It's misogyny because we come from a culture that's misogynistic.
Yeah, and I find that
beat the woman down, and that's just what it is. If it's not physically, verbally.
Yeah.
Like, and that for me, like, is the nail in the coffin. Like, that's what it is.
But I think what I appreciate about your conversation, especially Waleed, is the way you guys handle the conversation. So when you speak about things, it kind of balances out with the accountability and the acknowledgement of this is wrong and this is right, rather than just talking about dating and you're actually going, well, I'm aware that if I'm not married to this person, there's no blessing behind, there's no barakah in it.
That's
like,
what we said, yeah.
Yeah, and I respect that, because I think for me, it's like a very because if you're looking at someone, like by default, by you having numbers on Instagram, by him having a large following, people look up to you and hold on to your words. So if you're seeing, oh, he's chatting to this girl and, like, you know, it's going on social media, until they get married, they're almost normalizing, even if it's not directly or intentionally, that this is okay and it's nice and it's cute. So then we're kind of just taking away from the religious aspect, and we're now looking at the social media aspect.
Yep.
So I like the fact that he kind of admittedly said, I know this wasn't good and I knew that, and it's just that, to me, that's growth. For someone who's 25 levels, like, I respect him. I think that conversation was a big eye-opener for me to his level of growth. And he's not an average 25-year-old. I don't know many 25-year-olds, but I just know that their mentality doesn't go that deep.
Yeah,
and
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't know how much you guys know him, and I don't want to make this conversation about him because we've got a whole podcast to do. But he doesn't have a bad bone in his body.
That's sick.
Like, the thing about him is, what you see on the internet, I swear to you, is what you see in real life. There is no difference, and I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes it's jarring. but and no one's perfect. But I swear he doesn't have a bad bone in his body, and he genuinely means the things he says. And that's another problem about social media. A lot of people don't say a true reflection of how they feel for views, controversy, blah blah blah. But with him, what you see is what you get, like, to the T. So that's probably why, like, you know, it is what it is.
No, it's like, you know, hats off to his circle, his social circle, his upbringing, whatever that's humbled him. That's sick. And likewise for you, like, you guys are very grounded human beings, like, very reflective, and I think that's something that's quite rare. And I know when I've met guys who are slightly younger than me, they're like, Heba, you know, we can't, like, really have conversations with women our age or younger the way I can chat to you. Like,
do you know why it's like that with me and him though? It's because we talk a lot, and guys have this thing where they feel weak if they even turn to their friends. I don't want to look moist in front of my friends, you know, all that nonsense. But we've had, like, plenty of, like, personal conversations, and he's literally turned around to me before and have said, I've learned something new today. It's accepting that, do you know what, like, you might not like this answer, but, like, it is the right answer, and you should learn to accept that it is, because it's going to benefit you more in a positive way. And there's been times where he said something to me, I'm like, wow, yeah, 100%, or I've said it to him, and that's why it works, because we're willing to not necessarily correct each other, but give a different perspective and accept that different perspective.
It's the willingness to listen as well. Because a lot of us, when we're criticized or we're trying to be given advice, it's like, no. So you're quick to answer and defend yourself, as opposed to going, you might have some facts in that, or maybe I need to take a minute and really deep it, because that's where the growth happens. Effectively. Otherwise, you're just stagnant.
Acceptance.
That's it, and I respect it. Do you feel like social media has completely messed up the concept of marriage these days? Social
media has messed up the concept of a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think that social media has accepted and supported sexual liberation in women, which I think has never benefited women, won't benefit women, and never ever will in human existence ever benefit women in a positive way.
This is literally an episode I just filmed just before this one.
Yeah.
And I spoke about the new feminism vibe I don't run with. Like basically women have like completely warped their brain into thinking sexualizing themselves empowers them when actually you're just doing things that men
it's
have
not
always...
good for their psychology and their biological
100%.
reasons for that. Studies that have been done.
Yeah.
It doesn't help them in terms of in the dating world because they're judged on that. They're judged on their past. And I'm not saying these things should be like this, by the way.
No, but
you shouldn't judge someone on their past.
100%.
But what you get with me is I'm going to tell you what I think it is, even though it's not correct and it shouldn't be like that. That is how it is. And a man, 99% of the time, is going to judge you for your past, even if you've changed.
Even if you're trying to look past it.
It's just like that. It's just like that. And so it's social media has changed a lot of things. In terms of the dating, yes, because it set certain expectations that for a lot of people are not realistic.
What are those expectations?
Pardon me?
What are those expectations?
It depends who you watch. So like, for instance, you'll see certain influencers where he treats her a certain way. By the way, treats her a certain way on what he posts.
On camera.
You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I remember one thing actually, which relates, Low Key, the rapper.
Yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
I know him. You went to college together.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Tell me my age about telling me my age.
We went like back in the day touring and stuff. We went to a lot of places, right? And one thing he said to me in Manchester, which was over 10 years ago, and I'll never forget it. He was heavy on idol worship. He hated idol worship in celebrities. And what he said to me was, don't worship the face on your TV screen because 9 times out of 10, their life is worse than yours.
That's 100%. I always say the happiest people on social media that are overdoing it on social media, usually it's because they're trying to overcompensate for maybe like the unhappiness or the trauma they're going through.
Exactly.
So it's a nice mask.
Exactly.
So for me, I
so that's how it relates, because it's someone sees it and they think this is how it should be. I'm not going to have it any other way, because if she's getting it like that or he's getting it like that,
I deserve it too.
I should get it too. And it's like, it's not realistic to what is achievable, and it's not even maybe in its true essence that. It's just what's being promoted.
Yeah, it's very unhealthy.
Yeah, so it's warped. You use that good word a couple of times. I quite like that. It's warped their perspective. Or their perception of what dating should be like, how it should be, what you should get out of it. I
agree. I think also the overexposure of like normalizing relationship and the romanticizing of it, and it's like setting up expectations for failure. And I think a lot of people, and I think the reason why marriages do fail these days, or even getting to marriage, is so hard. You touched on something that I preach about, FOMO. I went through FOMO.
You watched that full episode?
I watched most of it.
What did you think of it? Be honest.
It was alright.
Okay, cool. FOMO, go on.
This guy's asking for feedback on air. Alright. But I went through FOMO after I left my ex-husband, because I was with him for 11 years. So I'm like, hell no, am I jumping into anything? I had eggs in different baskets. And I'm not talking sexually, I'm talking about just getting to know people. Like, I'm not going to invest. Like, before I'm like, I want to talk to one person and one person only. Now I'm just like, I don't know what my blessing is. So I started exploring. And I started noticing, like, my friend said, Hebs, you got a lot of guys that are on you and they'll never have everything you want. Like, you need to chill. I need to find out. Like, I always go, this guy has this guy has this, sure, but you'll never find it in one person. And it's like 20, 80% or 30, 70%, where it's like if someone has 7 out of 10 things that you want, you'll never get the 10 out of 10, basically.
Yeah, but that's where the compromise comes in.
That's it.
And I think
it's like, what is it that you want to compromise, and what is it that you hold real weight on? Like, what, like materialistic things, aesthetic things, how much do they really weigh when it comes to the real concept of marriage?
Everyone's got a criteria.
100%.
And the thing is you're not going to find someone. You might have 5 things, 7 things, and mine might differ from his, and that's fine. That's just what his are, right? But like,
subjective.
Yeah, but like the thing with it is the ones that they don't fit, you got to very quickly ask yourself, am I willing to compromise that or not? And if they're not and I'm not, we can't continue this, because guess what? That one thing, that 2 things,
it's gonna linger forever.
It's gonna be issues that we're gonna argue 100%. About 9 months down the line. And guess what? By then, I can't leave you because I'm so in love with you that now I can't leave, but these things are bothering me. And that's when it opens up the whole different can of worms. And this is what people don't do. They get submerged in things that don't have longevity in terms of the significance, with short-term things that they like, and then the red flags are flying all over the place, but you see them as white because of those other things.
I call them amber. You turn them into amber. You turn the red into amber,
right?
In hope that they will change it one day, or in hope you can develop them one day, or they'll let go of these habits, or they'll learn to be more respectful one day, because you're focusing on the maybe like financially stable, tall guy status, and you're like, yes, but then how does that serve your soul? How does it serve your purpose? Because right now you might not really think that far ahead, but then eventually as you grow and evolve, you're like, we don't actually serve each other anything. We look good together, cool, everyone loves us on social media, but deep down inside, what is it when we're alone together? You have to strip it down.
How is it really?
What is it? And I think for me, I had to let go of FOMO, because I realized, because even with the concept of can you let go of those two things, sometimes some people go, no, I won't let go of those two things. I'll let them go in hope that I'll find the full 10.
But here's where the problem is now. So here we go. So this leads to the continuation of what I said. You'll have the odd person. I find this a lot with women nowadays, because this is sort of what I deal with mostly, right? It's right. Instead of me accepting that I need to compromise this, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to potentially lose this person because of that.
And hope I'll find it all.
And instead of compromising, I'm going to hope that eventually I'll find a guy that will accept it.
But do you know where this comes from? It's the concept of social media and everything being so instant and so disposable, because you see your options, and these options in your head, when you're naive, you're like, I got 10 guys in my DMs, I get moved to twice a day, I know I'm an attractive woman or whatever, but you don't know this guy's intentions, you don't know his heart, you don't know what he'll bring to the table. And just by looking at these statuses, or the statistics, or the ratio of how many times you get approached, that you think you have options.
Yeah, but guess where the problem is? when you won't accept and change those things and compromise those things, and you go searching for the 10, guess what happens? You go from 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, and maybe you sleep with the 1 and the 1 and the 1, and guess what happens? Just like what we spoke about earlier about sexual liberation. Even though you're not trying to be sexually liberated, it comes with it, right? I'm going to sit here on the podcast and say that is going to have massive psychological effects on women.
100%.
Being sexually active with a number of males is going to. The studies have been done. You can research it. It increases the chance of divorce.
Yeah, but I do think. I mean, I don't know how much that's really hold weight at times, because it's who's reported it when they report it.
Yeah, of course. But
I do feel women are changing in a to an extent, in a bad way and a good way, because they're trying to be too much like men. They think sexually they can handle it. They can, it's have as many body counts, and they'll be strong, and they can still be committed when the right person comes. But I feel like two people, first it was men playing the field, trying to find their women, and it's just part of the growth of a man. Islamically means absolutely nothing, by the way, holds no weight whatsoever. But in a cultural perspective, men are expected to behave in a certain manner while they grow. But then I feel like now, because the women are moving a certain way, men are moving a certain way. Like no one's calming down.
Yeah, it's a power trip between the two.
Exactly. And I feel like it's also dangerous, because men aren't also behaving themselves. So it's not just women. Women are also being dealt with cards of men of a different caliber as well. So the traditional man is almost non-existent, or they're not showing the tradition because they feel like they have to act a certain way to attract certain women or to protect their energy, so they got to move and test women out, as opposed to just being like vulnerable and being a traditional man. And women can't be vulnerable because they got to act like mandem, and they got to be strong and empowered.
I think in terms of that, the issue that a lot of men have with the traditional aspects is a lot of men feel like, why am I gonna sustain traditional things that a male should, and I don't get traditional in return? But then, you have to be the person that you want the world to be. So that goes back to your quote, which is how it's a full circle. So basically, if you truly believe in a traditional man, and you loved watching your pops or someone else be that man, and you go, you know, one day I want to be that man. Cool. You'll know exactly how to who to write off. Because if her energy's not right, keep her stepping. Yeah, she's got a good body. Yeah, she's got but I know she's not the woman for me. Especially when you get to a certain age. I ain't got time to play about. I ain't like if you're in your 30s or in your late 20s, your growth is happening. And if it's not happened yet, I'm not waiting to find out. Yeah, and look, again, sad, but for women, it's worse. Like a woman that gets into her 30s that isn't married, it's going to be an issue for a number of reasons.
But I feel like we live in an era and a defense for men and women where everything is very hard. There's so many men on like, for example, Muz, because that's where I found my husband.
Right.
Like after sieving through hella guys. And women who are literally going, I'm a good person. Why are we not attracting the same energy?
Yeah, 100%. But I'm just saying, like, there's a way society looks at it, and I don't necessarily say that I agree with it. I'm just saying what I think it is a lot of men, one of the aspects that they like in a woman is when a woman's youthful, right? As a woman gets older, they will attract a less pool of men.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Second thing, there's biological reasons as well, because once they hit a certain age, it's harder to have children, etc. It varies from person to person. Yeah, of course. But like generally speaking, they say, that's what they say, right? So it's like that pool of men gets smaller as opposed to a guy that goes for a 23-year-old, 24-year-old, 25-year-old, for instance, right?
Yeah, but then...
So it just works against them sometimes.
But that, to me, my argument is if you're in your grownish age as a man and you're still single, your pool's also smaller because you can't be rolling with a 23-year-old girl who's still... And that 23-year-old girl is probably living her best life across the waters because she's feeding the narrative of Instagram. So actually the older generation of women are probably more humble and more stable. But so we live in a different time where these stats don't always necessarily stand. But if a man holds that thought of a woman and the status of a woman, then that's a cultural point of view. When you strip it down to faith, what's her morals like? What's her ability as a mother like, as a wife? How's she going to hold the house down? How's she going to hold me down when I needed to hold me down? And how am I going to be able to serve her? So these things become irrelevant if you're truly trying to be that honourable man. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's like, yeah, you're right. There are stigmas around women. And yet, as you get older, the pool does get smaller. But you also, as women, as you get older and you're more established, you expect a more established man. And there's like so many things that makes your pool smaller, not just the fact that you're getting older or that you've been divorced.
But then it just depends what kind of man you want, because what happens is, what I'm seeing a lot of is different, like a lot of women, obviously not all, they want a specific type of man that makes a specific type of money, that's a specific type of height, which by the way, only 15% of men are over 6 foot.
We just discussed this, me and Aladdin, like 15%. It's a small percentage.
But then what happens when you say, right, 15% of men are 6 foot. Now you want him to have a certain amount of money, that percentage gets even smaller. Now you want his character to be a certain way, funny, charismatic and ambitious. Smaller. That's even smaller.
How many of them are married? How many of them are not?
Right, so say we have like a certain percentage now of men that you found that have those things. Now you got to ask yourself,
how many of them want me?
How many of them want you?
Yeah.
Because when those men fit that category, guess what happens? They have options.
Yeah, true. But
right,
did you just gunshot the situation?
No, but it's
but it's true. But I genuinely believe we live in a very different era of time, which has its positives and its negatives. But I think also men's pools are getting smaller because they're so entitled of I have options. But what the caliber of women of options do you have?
Totally get it. But I'm going to ask you a question. It might not be a yes. I would like a yes or no, but maybe it needs more. You've got a guy over 6 foot, handsome, charismatic, funny, ambitious, high value. Okay? He's 35, 32, 35. That's a man's peak, they say, right?
Okay.
Peak. Why would he, and I'm not necessarily saying I agree with this position, I'm just trying to gauge all
right, Kevin Samuels.
Yeah. Why would he that has all those things and has a plethora of options, why would he go for a woman who's older, which means
older or the same age?
Well, yeah, fair enough. Good question. Around about plus 29, 30 plus, right? Who, generally speaking, because they're a certain age, they would have experienced more. And a lot of men don't like that past thing, like I was saying. So it's like, why would he choose that when his options are through the roof and he can go for someone younger, more youthful, which is a characteristic that men like, that has probably less baggage, generally speaking, because they're younger and they've experienced less? Why would they?
Okay, so firstly, the younger generation are effed. Not all of them, but they have their own baggage and they have their own trauma from very young because they're overly exposed. sexually, mentally, emotionally, way more. Secondly, by the way, I'm not disagreeing that this is definitely a thing, 100%. I'm not trying to be deluded in any way, but a wise man will go, this woman's my age, been through life, not as in been through body count. Like, well, let's not always assume that this is the case. Been through life, there's a bit of wisdom in her, there's a bit of growth in her, probably quite stable. She might have been single, been divorced, has a child, whatever. But I can see her, and I know that she'll give me less drama than the excitable young girl who's still trying to find her feet.
Great. Now, what do you think of the percentage of men under that same criteria that fit that mentality versus men under that criteria that are just gonna get a young one, like
that's
a younger
cool,
girl?
but they're not for me, and I'm cool. So if I'm that woman,
right? No, fairs. But
then that's
what's
cool.
the disparity between the two? 80-20?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Right.
But those men will eventually learn. So they'll go through the young girl. And maybe inshallah it works out. 100%. I'm not here trying to say that every younger woman, 100% no. There are a lot of young women who are wise and got their head-ish sorted, but the probability is you're going to learn with time that actually, I should have not gone for the youthness solely.
Maybe.
And there should have been a lot more. 100%, maybe not. 100%.
Yeah.
We've run out of time. So
is there anything else you want to, we got 5 minutes?
No, we're done, mate.
We're done.
Done.
That flew by, man.
I say this to most of my guests, part 2, when you're ready.
Yeah, because I feel like it was...
Don't say no on air. Like,
no, I want to, because I feel like I have, like, it wasn't enough.
We haven't spoken about half of things you wanted to speak about.
How long was this?
Way more than it should have been. Like an hour and 20.
No, you see, that's not... No, I don't like that.
No, it's not an hour and a half. I got my timer on. Say something. It just set off now.
No, like, it's not... I don't like that.
Nah, it's cool, man. It just means we can carry on speaking.
Was there loads of more points?
There's a lot more to talk about. Don't get upset. We had great conversation.
No, but, do you know what it is with me? Like, I have this thing where, 1, I can't keep my mouth shut. 2, I have opinion about everything.
That's cool.
And 3, I feel like I didn't get to say everything.
Gramos,
like,
it is okay. This is why you're here today, because you can talk and because you got an opinion. And the beauty of it all is because of a podcast, we can keep coming back and unpacking, and with growth, there's more conversation.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'd
We're not writing a book today.
I'd do a part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. But thanks for having me, though.
Committed. I appreciate you coming.
It was really good, actually. It wasn't long enough, but we'll see how this does on YouTube and stuff.
Look at this guy doing his analytics already. All right, for those who don't know who you are, where to find you, what you're working on, who you are, just please let them know your handles, everything like that.
Instagrams on everything. Instagram. It's ITSGRAMSS on Instagram, TikTok, and I do topics like this. So
wicked. Thank you very much.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Guys, you've been listening to Growing Up British. My name is Hebs. You can catch me on Instagram on I am Hebs with a Z, growingupbritish.h also on Instagram, and Mama Hebs on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, like, and all that jazz. Take care. Eat it. Grownish, smartish, British.
We are British, apparently.